Coming up on TekThing, what comes after TrueCrypt, some amazing new earbuds, iOS 9, your thoughts on Windows 10 versus hardware upgrades, and a hearing aid. It's all coming up on TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we make technology behave.
Except when it beats us half to death and leaves us bloody in the street.
He's such a cruel person.
I'm not a cruel person. Losing a Windows 7 password from 2 years ago, incredible pain in my ass. We'll talk about that next week.
Yes.
iOS 9 is here. Watch OS 2 is delayed. We're going to talk about iOS 9 later in the show, while you probably are going to update to it whether you want to or not.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, I know. We got some questions on TrueCrypt encryption. Brian writes. We did. Actually, sort of a steady trickle, but we decided to bring some answers.
All right, so this one's from Brian.
Yeah.
You want to read?
You mentioned maybe doing a future segment on TrueCrypt. Count me in. I love TrueCrypt, and I have mixed feelings about using it going forward. There have been a couple of spin-off projects where others have taken the source code and picked up where the TrueCrypt project left off. Have you heard any positive feedback on such projects? Love the show. Keep up the good work, Brian. Thank you, Brian. And then Johnny adds in, TrueCrypt is not safe anymore? I've been looking at BestCrypt, but it costs $59.95. What encryption software should I use to protect my personal files? I am looking for something similar to TrueCrypt where all files are protected in one container. Free is preferred, but I'm willing to pay for the product if it does the job just as efficiently as TrueCrypt. Regards, Johnny from Denmark. And then we got a really awesome email from Chud that said, TrueCrypt replacement. I suspect Chud's email was longer and more extensive, but I couldn't guess the password to unlock the encryption on his email, so I have the subject line. So
I did figure out the password after I tweeted him on Twitter. I was like, dude, I'm not good at this whole trivia thing. I was like, just tell it to me. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
So the TrueCrypt audit is officially done as of April of this year. They finally finished it.
And basically, if you're not familiar, like TrueCrypt, awesome open source encryption software, they're like, we're done, we give up. And they walked, like the developers walked away from the project.
It was scary.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, why are they walking away? What's going on? Like, is there a backdoor in this? Like, what is going on? It was very scary.
Hence the TrueCrypt audit.
Yeah, so the whole report is available to read up on. I actually read through the entire report because I'm a dork.
Willing reading.
They identified 4 different issues, and none led to a complete bypass of confidentiality in common usage scenarios. So they actually stated that on page 7 under their findings summary. So they basically just say that the standard workflow of creating a volume and making use of it was reviewed. No significant flaws were found that would impact that. The most severe finding that they made was relating to the use of a Windows API to generate random numbers for the master encryption key material, among a few other things. Now, while CS, which is the cryptography services, the company that did the audit, they believe that these calls will succeed in all normal scenarios, at least one unusual scenario would cause the calls to fail and rely on poor sources of entropy. So I know that sounds a little weird. LifeHacker did a whole write-up on it, on the audit. So luckily they explained everything. They have a very non-super geek explanation. So basically 4 cryptography vulnerabilities were found, all of which would only happen on a very rare occasion. 2 were of high importance, 1 was low, and then the other one was called undetermined. So to protect the pictures of your cats, for example, TrueCrypt would be perfectly fine. For company files, for important documents, etc., etc., it would probably be really wise to look elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not trying to hide stuff from the NDA, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
If you are trying to hide stuff from the NDA or like multinational corporations, then yeah, it's funny because like after all of that panic and all of that time spent auditing it, they really didn't find anything that bad.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all 4 of the errors that they found were with cryptography in specific, so that's an issue in itself.
Or the random number generators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is there are quite a few options that you do have available now since TrueCrypt is no longer being updated. There's VeraCrypt, which is pretty much the
open source heir.
Yeah, it's the open source heir. It's the baby version. So except it's even better now. So it's also free. It's forked over a bunch of the original code base from TrueCrypt for all of its own usage. And according to its dev, the issues in TrueCrypt's audit have been addressed. So VeraCrypt is currently researching funding for an audit, but no review has been done on its software. So just keep that in mind, because it'd be very easy for them to put in their own kind of code.
But the code.
But why would they do that, really?
Yeah, and all the code is publicly available and
Yes,
examinable.
it is.
So should you be an expert and you want to look at it yourself, that opportunity is available.
Yeah, they have it available too on several different sites too, since I believe Codeplex is owned by, who is it, Microsoft maybe? But yeah, they have it on GitHub, SourceForge, Bitbucket, so plenty of places where you can actually do your own little audit if you want to. So yay. VeraCrypt.
A lot of folks still rely on BitLocker. BitLocker, of course, is a Microsoft project that's built into or available in professional versions of Windows.
Of course, that's if you trust Microsoft.
Yeah, or if you trust the NSA, right? Because we've learned through Edward Snowden that if the NSA sent a letter to Microsoft that said we need a backdoor into this, and then send a part of that letter, like paragraph 7 was, by the way, if you tell anybody you weakened the encryption on BitLocker, we'll arrest all Microsoft employees and beat them with sticks, then Microsoft would actually legally be liable to put that stuff in there and leave the doors open. That said, BitLocker is, it's closed source, but it's reviewed by Microsoft partners, we understand, companies and agencies. Well, yeah. Well, it's it's ironic if somebody wants to protect their data and they're a Windows shop, even if they're a 3-letter agency that doesn't crack things or do signals intelligence, this may be one of the options they want to consider.
BitLocker is a lot easier to use since it's very, very user-friendly. But again, I tend to follow that trust no one concept, so I prefer open source when it comes to encryption services. Luckily, LifeHacker also did this whole top 5 choices, and
they did a high 5.
Yeah, they did a high 5, and they also included 7-zip. So
I had forgotten 7-zip existed, actually.
Me
It kind
too.
of blew my mind, which is essentially a zipping tool that offers the ability to encrypt files.
Yeah, so 7-zip
Somewhere
is
it's
used
in
for
here.
file encryption. I'm pretty sure everybody uses it. It does not do whole volume or disk encryption, though, so keep that in mind. But very, very good for file encryption. If you want to upload a certain file to Dropbox, you could use 7-zip to encrypt that file and then upload it before it actually hits the internet. Huh, who knew?
Who knew? Now we do. Thank you, LifeHacker. Oh my goodness. So, TrueCrypt, kind of still safe. VeraCrypt seems to be the heir to TrueCrypt, as in it is still being developed. There's a couple more options for you. And of course, you can tweet at TekThing or post on Facebook.com/TekThing or email ask@TekThing or @Snubs or @Patrick Norton with your comments about how psychotic we are with our belief in security and encryption, or just with any question you have about technology or Shannon's ukulele playing.
Oh no, it's so
yes.
bad.
I believe Darren has a question about your ukulele playing.
I hope not. Darren, what's up on Hack 5?
Simple web services for encryption and how you can integrate it with the command line on Linux, plus doing the same thing in Windows. That's right, we're getting all crypto-tastic. Check it out on hak5.org.
It is now time for the Rapid Fire Roundup, and this is 3 things that you can stick in your ears, and that sounds kind of gross.
I'm not talking Q-tips here.
Oh, Q-tips, yeah.
This is like Shannon's 3rd show today. She's a little giddy, so I'm going to count myself in. Ready?
Ready.
Go!
Go!
So, I'm browsing on CNET. Audiophiliac Steve Gutenberg says, cheap thrills, FiiO's outstanding EX1 in-ear headphones, and he says they are amazing. FiiO is a Chinese company. They kind of made their bones doing headphone amplifiers and DACs, and this is their first in-ear monitor or earbud.
They look nice.
I stopped wearing earbuds a long time ago because in a lot of ways headphones are more comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Etymotics from back in the day. They do amazing.
Have you seen Animorphs? They kind of look like those creatures from Animorphs.
Great.
saying.
I've been sticking creatures in my ear. These are super flat, super amazing earbuds, and they have like 37 decibels of attenuation. So I've actually used those while grinding steel because they block more audio than almost any ear protection I know of.
Yeah, that's surprising.
A few years ago, I heard Jerry Harvey's first set of JH11s, the Pro Custom in-ear monitor. Jerry Harvey makes in-ear monitors for unbelievably amazing world-class musicians. This was epiphanal. These things sound incredible. They're custom molded. They have multiple, these particular models, like 4 drivers. They now sell for $850. They used to sell for $1,100. So that was the last thing I heard in the earbud world that made me go, this is the most, well, it should sound amazing.
Yeah, for that price. For
that price, but you know, there are expensive earbuds that sound cruddy. So, but yeah, props to Jerry Harvey, he makes amazing stuff. So FiiO has the EX1s, which are the things you see up on the screen right now I'm holding in my hand. These are super, super tiny. The Nanotech titanium diaphragm in-ear monitors, $89.99 on Amazon.com. So, you know, stainless steel, duralumin housing, fairly soft earbuds. They're vented, which I thought was a little interesting, kind of odd. Kevlar in the cable, because apparently that is the way to be cool and awesome and be unbreakable. And this ridiculously overbuilt right angle plug. I like right angle plugs for headphone jacks, but this thing is massive. So you're probably wondering, how do they sound?
I am.
I assure you, they don't sound as good as those $1,100 Jerry Harveys, but I was stunned. They have a rich mid-range for vocals, really crisp highs, a well-controlled bass, and they sound really, really good. I was really impressed, especially for $90.
Yeah, it's a good price.
It's a great price for what you get. It was interesting because what I didn't realize, I'm going to put these down because I'm going to end up with them wrapped around my microphone. I should point out, actually, there's no microphone or volume control on this, and they suck at blocking background noise, possibly because of those little vents. The side effect is the little venting seems to do a lot to give them a very spacious sound stage, because usually earbuds, like the noise is right here in your head.
Right.
These had a fairly decent presentation. I loved the way vocals sounded on them, especially I was listening to oh my goodness, Little Plastic Castles. I can't think of the name of the artist. She's amazing. I'll figure it out by the end of the show. So like I mentioned, no microphone or volume control, not very good at blocking background noise. But really, really impressive overall. So super headphone nerds might notice that these look a lot like these, the Dunu Titan 1 in-ear earphone, which sells for about $135. Turns out from the awesome head-fi.org pages that FiiO is actually doing their own custom version of the Dunu Titan 1. Oh. Including the cable changes and the overbuilt connectors. They are audio, basically the sound is extremely similar, if not identical, between the two. It's a very popular earbud on hi-fi. I was really shocked at how good they sounded. They just sounded, I'm going to be like Robert here, it's delicious. They just sounded delicious. Which is not something I use to describe audio gear, but I like it imitating Robert sometime. Number 2, since we got 3 items here, PURO's IEM or in-ear monitor 500. These sell for $189. And I'm going to be a little cruel here. I'm going to say I didn't realize just exactly how good the FiiO sounded until I put these in my ear. These are not bad.
Okay.
Right? So these have dual drivers, this crazy sort of knurled case on the back. PURO's a pretty reputable brand. Well, so there's like a woofer and a tweeter. That's the thing for some brands, is going with multiple drivers. They cost nearly twice as much. They sell for like $190. Very full range, neutral to balance, no excessive push in the bass or treble. They offer an inline microphone if you're into that kind of thing. Excellent fit, fairly light in the ear, because they look like they're going to be a little heavy, and they're probably actually lighter.
They do look a little heavy.
They do, but I think they're actually lighter than, because
they're super
of the,
light.
Yeah,
okay.
Especially because of that burly cable. I think they're actually lighter than the FiiO's are.
They're a lot lighter.
They're a lot lighter. Very comfortable, blocked a lot of background noise.
Wow.
They sounded grainy and thin on vocals compared to the EX1s. I'm a big fan of PURO's BT2200. Those are Bluetooth wireless headphones that limit volume to 85 decibels. It's fantastic if you have children and you don't want to destroy their hearing. We'll talk about that in a second. The IEM 500s did not impress me nearly as much. Just being honest there. So we mentioned in the opening of the show that we had a hearing aid.
Yes.
So somebody who does PR for the MDHearingAid group called me and said, do you want to test a hearing aid? And I was like, sure, it's digital. And the MDHearingAid FIT is inside of this case. It comes with like 10 batteries, a bunch of optional tips. And a single one costs $524.99.
Wow.
And I think we can get a close-up of it. There's an in an ear right there. And that is actually relatively inexpensive for a hearing aid. But let that sink in. $524.99. Look, if your headphones, your earbuds, or your stereo, or you're at a concert that is over 100 decibels for more than 15 minutes, you're starting to permanently damage your hearing. You're starting to take the little hairs inside of your ear and hammer them flat, and they don't come back. Most studies say that hearing loss is growing rapidly in the 12 to 19-year-old range. Probably the 20-something range too. I've seen estimates as high as 1 in 5.
Oh, wow.
And then it's gone up considerably over the last 2 decades as people go from Walkman to smartphones and wear them more often and play them louder. There's more deaf people in the over 70 range in terms of years on the planet. But seriously, the longer people listen to smartphones, or before them Walkman and Discman, basically, if you're walking by somebody, if you're walking by a friend of yours in high school or college and you're 5 feet away and you can hear their earbuds, tell them to turn it down because they're going to make themselves deaf. It's bad. So MDHearingAid FIT, it is tiny by hearing aid standards. It's in-ear, not behind. It's digital. And traditionally the old school hearing aids were analog, so they elevated the volume of everything that hit the microphone on the hearing aid. So this has noise reduction, feedback suppression. It has 4 different settings, so you can sort of taper off the low end or the high end or adjust it for different situations. It is not as good for a lot of people as custom range boosting or suppressing hearing aids, but those tend to cost in the $2,000 to $5,000 range. Yeah. These are.
I hope insurance covers those.
In many cases, it doesn't. But we'll talk about that in a second. I had to use one of the sizing tips, which is the piece you see on the end, the little rubber piece on the end. It was too loose in my big hawking ears otherwise. It was funny because at first I thought it sounded really grainy, but it turned out I had a setting on that blocked everything but the high end.
Oh, weird.
So it was kind of, well, again, programmable sound settings to custom range. Custom tuned for different ranges. It's not Bluetooth, which is something my neighbor loves. He did a lot of rock and roll studio work in his youth and a lot of machine work. And between that and a later incident involving a pressure change in a plane, lost about 80% of his hearing in one ear and about 30 or 40% in the other.
Jeez.
He loves the fact that he can use his hearing aids Bluetooth connect to his smartphone. And it's also been really interesting to actually learn more about hearing aids, partially from my neighbor and partially trying to figure out how to review this. MDHearingAids, Audicus, kind of all sell direct. Kirkland / Costco have their own brand of hearing aids. If you want to learn more, there's a really good article on Consumer Reports, their hearing aid buying guide, which just came out in September 2015. A couple things they recommend: get evaluated with a full hearing loss profile, i.e. they test your hearing before you buy anybody's hearing aids.
Yeah.
If you're a veteran, start with your local VA facility because you can often get hearing aids for free, and most veterans say that their service was outstanding in terms of the process of getting the hearing aids. And really, this works, right? For $549. Try really hard to not destroy your hearing because this sucks compared to hearing things directly. Nothing against MDHearingAid, and I think they'd agree, preserve your hearing. Hearing loss is cumulative, and just, wear earbuds to concerts. We can give you recommendations for earbuds that make music sound good and allow you to listen without destroying your hearing.
Oh, yeah. Turn
the volume down, especially if you wear earbuds. Oh my goodness, if you run power drills or if you run power tools, use ear protection because you cannot get hearing back once it's gone.
I hear people on municipal buses and things of that nature all the time with their headphones on, and I can hear the music all the way down in the same car.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
Protect your hearing. That's it. Got any questions, ask at TekThing.com.
Rant over.
I'm just saying. You only get your hearing is like teeth. You only get one set. Yeah. One set of hearing and teeth. iOS 9 reviews are all over the web today. Look, kids, it's the iOS 9 page on Apple. It promises to be a lot tighter and more stable. Apple's engineers were basically making code better, doing a lot of cleanup, not so much in the massive innovation side of things. That said, there's lots to think about in favor of upgrading. Number one, Apple claims better battery life and has added a power-saving mode for when you need to stretch power. Apparently it lowers the screen, turns off some background apps. I wonder if
I can do that in my Android.
Well, of course you can.
Just saying.
Well, you know.
And it is good for like, what?
I'm not making an Android fight here right now. I will say, however, reading on an Android phone at night is so much more enjoyable than reading on an iPhone at night if your spouse is asleep and the lights are off, because, you know, Johnny Ives knows exactly how bright your phone has to be, period. Snarking aside, iOS 9 takes up a third of the space of iOS 8. We're talking about over 4 gigabytes to under 1 gigabyte, or excuse me, just over 1.3 gigabytes, I think, down from 4 point something gigabytes. That's a huge difference if you have a 16 gigabyte device.
Yeah, it is.
Number 3, iPad Air 2 Mini 4 and Pro get multitasking, side by side or window in window. Multitasking!
Hey.
Look at that. That's multitasking right there, people. That's some multitasking going on right there. Hopefully, it'll come to the phones.
Like the Samsung Galaxy Edge.
Go ahead. Be that way. Be that way. Siri's proactive assistant, aka Apple's answer to Google Now. Apple says it isn't sharing your data on the upside. That's good, but this is definitely playing they're playing catch up to Google Now, no doubt about it. Every review I've seen is kind of like, it's good, it's a start. It's not as good as Google Now.
It is good.
Number 5, I'm split between Safari getting third-party ad blockers and wondering why all of a sudden Notes gets a massive upgrade. Seriously, Notes gets handwritten notes, embedded images, URL previews, attachments, ponies. Ponies. Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff going on there. I just thought it was odd that after however many years of the Notes app being like, you can type notes into it, I used it to track my mileage on my truck.
I'm actually excited to check out iOS 9. I do have an iPad at home. I'm very OS neutral, I like to say, because I use everything.
No, you're not OS neutral. You're kind of OS neutral, except when you want to be snarky about Android.
I do like to be snarky. It's really fun to snark.
Snark.
Speaking of snark, I love being snarky on Twitter, and we got a tweet from that actually guy. Actually, Patrick got one.
I got one.
So it says, at Patrick Norton, what's making you wait for Skylake over Haswell-E? Isn't HWE Haswell-E better suited for video work and gaming due to 6 cores and more PCIe?
I don't think Matthew is snarking whatsoever, and I think it's a great question, actually. From a pure video editing and rendering standpoint, if you have a machine that you use for nothing other than video editing and rendering, absolutely. More cores is almost always better, unless for some strange reason you're still using a video editing app that only uses 1 core, in which case you need to upgrade. It's kind of crazy. If you go to the media encoding test that Ryan did over at PCPUR.com. This is Handbrake, which is I spent a lot of time in Handbrake.
Oh, Handbrake.
That's the Haswell-E. This is a $1,000 processor, and it was getting, I wouldn't call it spanked, but beaten by the, what should be $350 processor. Well, yeah, that said, and a lot of other applications, the Haswell-E with the, 84,000 cores is outperforming it. So, here's the thing. Clock gains, instructions per cycle, big gains on Skylake. They seem to be making the extra 2 cores kind of moot in a lot of applications. That said, there are other stuff where it is, okay, so there's the X264 benchmark. So, it's interesting. I haven't found a lot of there's 3 Haswell-E processors. They start at like 300 and change and work their way up to like $1,000. I haven't seen a lot of the less expensive Haswell-E parts being benchmarked on multiple or threaded tests. Okay. Something that's interesting, Intel's rapid storage technology can now do PCI Express RAID. With the ZA170 chipset, which is pretty ninja, as in doubling write speeds if you do a RAID configuration. From a gaming standpoint, games are just starting to use 4 cores, much less 6, and most games are optimized barely to use dual cores. The cheapest Haswell-E CPU is still more expensive than what the Skylake Core i7 should settle down to in a few weeks, and it's been kind of nuts. I'm going to pull up Amazon.com real quick. Amazon.com.
Needless to say, it's still kind of expensive.
Well, they haven't. Okay, so the Core i5 is down to $240, but the Core i7 6700K, which is the processor I've been waiting for, has been anywhere from $440 to now $500. A couple days ago was $540. The supply has not really come loose on the Core i7-6700K. But hopefully it will settle down into that $340, $350 price range we expect it at. And I got to say also, in Haswell-E's defense, it's no longer like you need a $500 processor and a $330 motherboard. There are a lot of Haswell-E motherboards or X99 motherboards that are in the $200 range. I feel like I should be able to get one more good processor upgrade out of the Z170 chipset. I do not think we're going to see any more X99 compatible processors, and the super high-end, $1,000 Haswell-E parts, I don't think are going to get much less expensive over time.
Okay.
That said, for a pure video editing environment, if I had no other considerations and wanted to spend all the money, I'd be all over that $1,000 part and 64 gigabytes of RAM.
That's a lot of money.
Cost is an object, and I love a bargain.
Oof.
The Smanos W100 Wi-Fi alarm system you reviewed a few episodes ago.
I did.
It's back.
It is back.
Well, the Wi-Fi camera.
The Wi-Fi camera is. So if you guys remember, I had a lot of problems with the Smanos IP6 Wi-Fi camera a few weeks ago. I wasn't able to get it to work, so they sent me a new one to take a look at. And hey, look, the light is on. It actually works. It did take me 4 attempts to actually connect to it. The 3rd attempt told me when I tried to connect it at home that my Wi-Fi password was wrong, which no, it wasn't. The 4th time, I didn't change a thing, and it actually did connect, so I was able to get into my live camera feed. Hi.
So it works.
Yes, and I actually did the same thing here, so I connected it on this router here.
And it connected instantly because the problem was your home network, right?
No, this time it took 2 connections. The first time it told me my password was wrong, and the second time it actually did connect. So I was able to get this one connected, however, I did have a few issues, so it was kind of irritating. But once I was finally connected, the app stays connected. It's a very good resolution. It's 1280 by 720, 30 FPS, so it's good. It's not the most amazing thing, but I can see what's going on, so it's good enough. There is no night vision though. There's no serious delays in live viewing, so I'm not going to run into live viewing delays, but I will run into a problem if I want to view it at night.
No nighttime cat camera.
Another thing I ran into is, if you'll notice on the screen, I have these big bars on the top and the bottom, and then I have the actual live view right here that you can see me moving around in. Unfortunately, there's no way to turn it so I can actually see it full screen during live viewing.
You can probably download it, right?
You can download it.
You can?
You can. I was able to figure it out. So I was able to make live recordings and snap photos. I was able to talk through the speaker and record my voice coming over it. I was able to save my phone, my camera recordings and everything to my phone's gallery, and I was very, very excited about that. When I pulled them up on my computer though, and I'll show you these too, the resolution's a little small on these guys.
They look a little compressed or chopped.
Yeah,
or just fundamentally
they're
weird.
a little bit 640 by 480.
That's old school.
Yeah, it's really small.
Creme de la creme, 1995.
It's really, really small. So even zooming in, it's going to be tough to see if anything's going on there. So.
So it's a 720p camera, but it saves out in 640 by 480.
Yeah. I can share the camera with my friends if I wanted to be like, look, I got a new bunny. Here's my QR code so you can watch my bunny hop around my house when I'm live away at work or whatever. There are no detection features, so I can't automatically start recording when somebody like walks across in front of the camera, or if there's a change in temperature. There's nothing like that built into this camera, so you have to always be adamant about watching it live to actually record anything live, else you'll be recording onto a micro SD card. So if somebody finds your camera and the micro SD card inside of it and just takes it with them, you're recording if you don't just happen to be watching when something happens. So it's great as like a baby monitor, or if you want to view your pets while you're at work and you're not worried about your security, like if you have a different system for that. But I would not recommend this for security. It's $129 pretty much everywhere on the internets. So I'd recommend something else if you want motion detection, night vision, all those functions that alert you to issues. But if you just want to use this as a monitor, then it's fine, even though it's 640 by.
No, it's not fine. I think we can do better.
480.
I'm going to give it the thumbs down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like this alarm system a lot more.
Yeah.
That thing was fun.
Smanos alarm, okay. Smanos camera, not okay.
Meh.
Hey everybody, just want to make sure you know about TekThing.com. You can actually subscribe there on iTunes or at YouTube.com/TekThing. Make sure you get each and every episode of the show. And if you want to take it to the next level, consider contributing to the show at Patreon.com/TekThing. You can donate however much you want per episode, and every little bit counts. And you'll get access to our free Patreon-only build videos. Our second one coming up in the next week. If you can't donate, that is okay. Please take the time to send us questions, tips, and to share the show with your friends and family. Giving our video the thumbs up on YouTube and liking our Facebook page. It all helps. And thank you, seriously, each and every one of you, so much for supporting the show however you do it. Keep watching. CasSandra writes in, I'm interested in using a Pi to replace my desktop running Windows XP. Don't laugh. It's set up specifically for using WinFax, and it isn't online unless I send a fax. It gets Windows updates and then is turned off, but it's still in a tower where I could have more space with a Pi. Can the Pi run Windows XP?
Short form answer would be no, not really. So I did a bunch of research on this, and I ran across a forum where most of the people were jerks when they answered. But for the most part, they were correct. The minimum requirements for XP include a Pentium 233 megahertz processor, 64 megs of RAM, 1.5 gigs of available space on the hard disk, which you could always use an external disk if you wanted to, video adapter, monitor with Super VGA 800 by 600 or higher resolution, and sound card. And the big part is XP doesn't run on ARM, at least not natively. You could use an emulator, but I don't
Windows
think that would work
x86
for fax.
processor, phone operating systems, and Raspberry Pi ARM processor.
They did list everything that you need to know in a nice little graphic as far as Model A, B, and the B+. This does not include the Raspberry Pi 2, but those are all running on the same kind of CPU, ARM. Specifically. So that graph is very informative as far as what kind of operating systems you can run on it.
Windows XP is not one of them. Technically, you can run Windows XP in an emulator, but look, I'll be honest with you, you could buy a Raspberry Pi and run Raspbian on it, which is an awesome operating system. It's open source, it's Linux, it's cool. I suggest you try something like HelloFax. It's what I've been using for faxes lately. It's eFax, HelloFax. There's so many options. You run them through your browser. HelloFax is cool because I can combine it with my Google Drive, which I particularly like.
Super useful.
So much simpler. I mean, you could, there's really good websites, faxauthority.com/Linux-fax. Darren found this one that's like basically how to send or receive a fax from Linux. You could do like a USB modem and get it running in Raspbian, but I'm just saying, get an online fax service. It's time. It's time.
And I also wanted to mention we got a few emails from folks who have installed a new hard drive in their Windows 10 system or a solid state drive. So here is Shay's answer. He sent us a message to ask@tekthing.com. He said, I recently upgraded to mSATA SSD in my Ultrabook. I had already upgraded the laptop to Windows 10 from Windows 8.1 a few weeks before and created the Windows 10 USB install media. When I installed Windows on the new solid state drive, the only difference was I had to click skip on the key input. The install finished normally, and about 10 minutes later, the OS talked to the activation servers and activated successfully. When you install the free upgrade on a PC, it generates a number based on the hardware, and that is stored with Microsoft. When the activation server sees that number again, it simply tells the PC that the license is valid and activation occurs. In short, if you have already upgraded the PC for free, you can install the operating system at any time on a new hard drive or solid state without a key, and it will activate. The only way that activation will fail is if you change out the motherboard. The CPU, video card, RAM, and adding other hardware will not invalidate the activation. Thank you, from Shay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an awesome, very, very solid answer. So really appreciate that. Thank you, Shay. And we also had folks write in and say the only the motherboard would mess up the activation because the hardware activation with Microsoft is tied to your motherboard's BIOS or the UEFI BIOS, or whatever they might have. This has not been confirmed though, so take that with a grain of salt. And from Mr. Protocol, our last feedback of the day, he said, Shannon and Patrick, watching the latest TekThing, and if you want to do a Windows 10 upgrade and want a clean install, first run a program to get the upgrade product key, then you can do a clean install with the Windows 10 product key. In my mind, this is essentially getting the license key from the store and should allow you to install with hardware changes. The product he links us to is at 10forums.com, and he says the original key is the Windows 7 key and the installed key is the Windows 10 key. So if you use the installed key, Windows 10 key, on a fresh install, you should be able to change hardware. Cheers from Mr. Protocol. So thank you so much to both Shay and Mr. Protocol. And lastly, I wanted to also link you to another key finder that I've used.
You're nervous about downloading applications off of strange forum sites that you don't frequent.
magicaljellybean.com/keyfinder.
It's an awesome app.
It is. So you can find your key, and then you can install Windows 10 with a key. And that is a cat.
Many keys it will find. Hi, Kirby. Kirby the cat from Hack5 joins us. So remember, kids, once in a while, put down the phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog, like pet your local cat or dog.
Yes, like pet your local animals. Well, not all of them, but ones like this one are fine.
Kirby.
She's adorable. That's our mascot.
Kirby.
I'm Shannon Morse.
I'm Patty Norton.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
Come on, try it. You won't do anything if you like, come on. Roar!
No.
Roar!
I don't want to.
I'm just gonna sit here and pet the cat though. Cat's
She's
like, I'm out of here.
Don't touch me.
Kitties! Tuck kitties! I'd pick her up, she gets really upset.
Yeah.
She is of an age. You want down, Kirby? Kirby gets a step stool. Ain't no party like it.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
That's,
Kirby.
That's some scratches. Oh yeah, that feels good.
Kirby's like, yeah, right there.
Oh yeah, that feels good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's like, okay, I'm done. Bye.
That's and she's off.
Thank you everybody for supporting the show. You're so super awesome, and hugs to everybody. And I can't wait to talk to you on our Google Hangout next week if you're one of our patrons in that mileage with thing perk.
And the liquid coolers are arriving.
Yes!
Cooling mayhem. Liquid cooling mayhem.
Look forward to another hardware build video coming up soon. It's gonna be awesome.
We hope.
It's gonna be super fun. I've been playing a lot
I
of
don't know why, but I have a serious face on.
games.
Maybe is this a serious face?
I like pandas. What?
She likes pandas. Shannon's ready for her afternoon snack.